1874 Preview Show.
Hello, welcome back to 1874. It's time for a match preview show as Aston Villa take on Arsenal at Villa Park Saturday tea time. This show is sponsored by Luke Roper, and if you want to get 20% off everything that Luke have to offer, use the code TVV20 and you'll get that, and we'll get a little kickback as well. So don't go around getting yourself all the latest Villa gear. Get yourself some Luke gear instead and help the channel out. I'm joined by the Athletics Aston Villa correspondent Jacob Tanswell, who's been at Bodymoor Heath today for Unai Emery's pre-match presser. Jacob, how are you?
Doing very well, thank you, Dan. It's been a while, hasn't it? You've been on all your holidays, so
yeah,
it's been good to finally speak to you and preview the season.
Yeah, looking forward to it. First home game, obviously, is always very, very exciting, and of course, it's a big one as well. Aston Villa against Arsenal. Bit of a bogey team for Arsenal last season, weren't we? Winning twice. How are you? How was Unai Emery feeling this morning going into the game against his old club?
As his methodical self, I guess. I think he's got obviously a great record against Arsenal. One of the other journalists asked him about his record. I think he said it was 6-7. And obviously last season was ultimately decided between Arsenal and Man City winning the league. I think for Emery, he was asked whether going back to Villa Park was a real big thing and something he was excited about. And he said, I will be tomorrow, but I needed the summer just to have a sleep and rest because obviously I think and that plays to the sense that I think Villa are just slowly building their way into the season. Obviously, it's only the second game of the season. This fixture feels like it should be a bit more important, but really, things are still in the works. A lot of things are still quite fluid, and it's a game where, of course, it'd be great if Villa could win, but I think they go into the game with no pressure, really.
Yeah, I mean, you've been at Bodymoor this morning. I've been at Villa Park today as well, previewing the game for the Premier League, which goes out everywhere. I think everywhere in the world except for the UK, which doesn't really make sense. But that's what happens. And yeah, I could see obviously everybody getting ready for the game tomorrow. A lot going on. I've got to be honest, slightly worried that certain things won't be ready for tomorrow from what I saw. But I'm sure Villa will get it in order. But it feels like a big season, doesn't it? And Villa Park, it'd be nice to kind of start with a win, obviously, but it'd be nice to get it back that fortress feel, because towards the end of the season, Villa weren't as good at home as they had been previously.
Yeah, I think so as well. I think they managed to summon up that last massive effort, didn't they, against Liverpool in the last home game, to obviously come back and get a really good point there. It would be good to start the season really well. I think if you remember early, last year when maybe there's a few games which could have, pivoted the season. I was thinking of the Crystal Palace game, which was, in September as well, where Villa obviously trailing and they came back to win 2-1, and that just carried on, the great momentum at home. So I think a really good continuity of the feel-good factor would be fantastic for Villa. But I just think it's such an excitable feeling atmosphere around the club with what they're doing on the pitch in terms of it's a Champions League year, and obviously this first game is a really big one.
Yeah, I mean, I've been in London all week, so not really had a chance to jump on and talk about the Emi Martinez contract situation. Of course, he's an old Arsenal player as well. He's always very, very up for these games. Just take you by surprise on Wednesday, I think it was, when Emi Martinez went to the club shop and announced that he was signing a new deal.
Yeah, it did. It was quite a surprise, but it was a pleasant surprise, I guess. I think he's getting to the age now where he's probably only got a couple contracts left, really. So it's quite a big statement that he's signed for such a long time for Villa, and it's a sign of Villa wanting to compensate their star performance. The last couple of the last year they've obviously tied down Leon Bailey, Esri Konsa, Ollie Watkins, and those guys that are consistent, the ones that Unai Emery thinks have got the really right mentality to play in the Champions League, and it's obviously a really good deal for Villa, and also a sign that they're continuing to back Emery in all his decisions, and if he wants to keep a player, then they'll do their utmost to keep him.
Yeah, I mean, before we go game specific, Emery did reveal a couple of interesting things in the press conference today. He was talking around Tyrone Mings kind of joining full training very, very soon. But the one that really, really pleased me, I mean, that pleased me as well, because Tyrone Mings is my favourite player and I can't wait to see him back in a Villa shirt. But the thing that really pleased me was basically saying that Boubacar Kamara will be back in a few weeks. And, the midfield looked like it functioned very, very well against West Ham on Saturday. Him coming back ahead of schedule would really add to our options and be brilliant if he was like kind of back full tilt just as we're about to enter the Champions League.
Yeah, definitely. I got told a few weeks ago that he was back running, and he had no pain. He was absolutely well ahead of schedule. I think that there was a feeling that he would come back in obviously October, like you say, but he's been on the grass for a few weeks. He's moving freely, and it just shows that although Tyrone Mings and Kamara sustain ACLs on the surface, how different they can be. You know, one's far more complex and serious, and the other one's obviously a long-term injury, but it feels like it's a bit more of a less of a rehab program. So I think for Kamara, it's fantastic. And I've seen a lot of Villa fans comment that it's either Onana or Kamara. I think Onana's got such scope to be a really good player going forward, and getting on the end of crosses and having that attacking license. I think them two would be fantastic, and it's something that I'd be really looking forward to seeing.
Yeah, that's a combative midfield. When Villa have tough games, you can imagine Kamara and Onana being sat there, and then to still have like Tielemans, who can play 10 as well, McGinn, who can play 10 all wide. Rogers has obviously been playing 10, Barkley. You know, we've got so many options now. When everyone is fit, it's going to be a real fight to get into that Villa team. Do you think he'll do any changes this weekend, or do you think it will be the same 11?
I think it will probably be the same 11. Obviously, you might have to look at Matty Cash in terms of his injury, whether that's because he obviously came off the other day, whether that's serious, but I shouldn't think so. I think there might be some changes on the bench. Maybe Baranchia will come in into the squad. I don't know who will drop out, but I think you probably keep it largely the same, get some more minutes under Ollie Watkins' belt. At the same time, there's that temptation, isn't there, to play Big John from the start, especially after his performance.
You were always tempted to play Big John from the. I'm pretty sure you'd play Big John over Ollie Watkins. How much you love John Durant?
No, I would love to see them two together at some point. I don't think this is a game where you want to play two up top against Arsenal. But you know what? Every time John Durant scores, and when he scored the other day, I was like a kid in a sweet shop. I almost stood up and punched the air. It was a great moment, and it was the only thing that could have changed my piece, because it was all done to be about Onana, and then up he pops, and got to rewrite it. But yeah, it was fantastic, and I think for Duran as well, it's important that even if he is on the bench, he doesn't take it too literally and too personally, and still makes an impact when he comes on.
Yeah, Edie in the chat saying, "Be criminal not to select Carlos for this game." I guess if Matty Cash is out, that's what.
He got man of the match twice, didn't he? Against Arsenal last season. So maybe there could be something in that.
Do you think that would be the way they'd go if Cash was out, rather than playing Jedlikovic, whose name I've probably not said right there?
I think they would probably go for Carlos at centre back and Konsa right back. I think they did that in the in both games, I believe.
They did.
Yeah, so and Emery tends to favour that against the better teams, and obviously with Arsenal's set piece prowess as well, having a bit more height at the back would it be a bad thing? So I think Nedeljkovic is one of those players that will slowly, gradually integrate. There's a few shaky moments when he came against West Ham, albeit he's had a really good, impressive start to his life at Villa.
Do you think?
It's one of those things where I really think it's such a fluid situation where if there's an offer that comes in, Villa will seriously consider it. I think with Monchi, every player really has a price, and there's always a lot of changing around in the window. But it will depend on the price for Carlos, and also if they can get that replacement in as well. But it's 8 days left. It looks like it's just more work for them to do.
Anything close on incomings, or do you think there will be any more incomings? I thought one was pretty close from what I'd heard, but then it's all gone quiet again, which makes me think something's happened.
Emery was pretty non-committal always when it comes to transfers today. I would be surprised if they didn't sign someone else. It's just pure hunch in terms of that type of centre-back / right back. I really think they're light at the back, and if they can do something in attacking areas, I know Raheem Sterling's been linked, but no, I checked it last night, and as of now, there was nothing in the story, and also his wages would be beyond what Villa's salary structure is. So I would be surprised if that happened, but at the same time, I wouldn't be surprised if there was an attacker that came in as well. But I think the focus again is moving some of those players off the wage bill. I know Morena's gone on loan, but the likes of Dendoncker too.
Yeah, there's still a few people kicking about, isn't there, who probably aren't going to form part of the matchday squad very much this season. It's better for them if they move the likes of Dendoncker as well. Better for the player. Well. Yeah, so yeah. I mean, he wasn't in the 20, was he, for the West Ham game? How did you see that West Ham game? I thought we played some really lovely stuff. Was there anything you saw in that game that kind of points to any differences that there's going to be for Villa this season, or did you think it was more of a follow-on from what they did well last year?
I think it was more of a follow-on, but Villa just looked a lot fresher, didn't they? It looked like the Villa of the first 4 months of last season. I thought they were really good. I thought they controlled the game well. There was a few times where I thought West Ham, basically, they played the same as David Moyes. I know they wanted a new manager, but I couldn't see any difference between Lopetegui and Moyes. They both played quite pretty direct into Antonio. And there's a few times where I thought Villa might struggle with the aerial threat. Towards the end of the first half, they kind of regressed a little bit. I think the goal knocked them back, but I thought Villa were really good, and I love this pattern of play they do where Pau Torres just keeps the ball, and then he gets it in, and then he'll put it into a John McGinn, who will then diagonally pass the ball to Rodgers, to Leon Bailey, and that's where the overload is. And they did that really well at points last season. I think the Man City game at home was when they were clicking, and to see that pattern of play emerge again shows that they're on it. Because I was quite surprised at how on it they were, because I did think they might take a few games to warm up. Pre-season was a bit iffy, wasn't it? So to be so ready and so sharp was really impressive.
Yeah, just a long comment here from a villafan.com podcast. Hi lads, hope you both well. I think Onana adds an extra layer to defence, and it gives me a bit more confidence in Torres and Carlos, despite the latter not featuring too much. I do feel Arsenal will press someone onto Onana, as West Ham left him with huge pockets of space at times.
Yeah.
Keep at the top work, and let's hope for another under the radar win tomorrow. From Nick. Who was I speaking? I was speaking to someone earlier. I had absolutely no memory of who it was. It must have been someone at Villa Park, and kind of still saying, I still think Villa, despite everything they've done in Emery and everything they've done, people still don't treat us with much respect. But in a way, I quite like it. Even though Emi Martinez signing a new contract, I think it's like a huge deal. He is the best. Well, I think he's the best goalkeeper in the world, but people still aren't really talking about us properly. I don't think. But then, we beat this team, Arsenal, twice last season, arguably cost them the title. I think we were the only team to beat them in the league in 2024 as well. So we're a real bogey side for them at the moment. But they're a great outfit, aren't they? Two clubs that have got the perfect manager. The fan bases are completely on side with what the clubs are doing on the pitch. I mean, Arsenal wouldn't change Arteta, and we wouldn't change Emery. I think the kind of arguments that go on about who's better are completely irrelevant, because Arteta's the best fit for Arsenal and Emery's the best fit for Aston Villa. That's just the way it is. But they'll want to win, won't they? If they can get a win at a ground they didn't win at last season, it kind of puts a marker down for a title challenge. They'll really want revenge after last season.
Yeah, they would, and I think their first 3 away fixtures are really tricky as well. And they could either, they can't win the title in these 3 fixtures, but they can certainly go some way in losing it. I think this type of game is like a statement away victory. I remember when they came to Villa Park a couple of years back, Emery's, in Emery's first game against Arsenal at Villa Park, and they obviously won that game late on. And that you saw the celebrations afterwards. I think they really took it quite seriously. I think for Arsenal, they were on the balance of play in both games last year. Maybe they deserve to get something. I thought they missed a few chances at Villa Park. They were dominant against Villa in the first half at the Emirates. But then what Emery's done against Arteta a few times now is he's able to look at the first couple of minutes of the first half, and then he's adjusted really well, and he's always been one step ahead of Arteta. And I think that's why Villa have edged those games. It's really going to be quite interesting to see, who takes the momentum early on and whether the other team can wrestle it back. I think Villa were fantastic at second half at the Emirates, and I think that type of game plan is something they'll try and do this time around.
It must become psychological as well, because it's going to be virtually the same 2 sets of players. Arsenal have only signed one player. I think the Villa 11 will virtually be players that were there last season, with the exception of maybe even just Onana, who started. Villa are easing their new players in slowly. Arsenal doing the same with Calafiore. So that will be fresh in their mind. It wasn't that long ago, was it?
No, it wasn't. And, that game at the Emirates as well, you could see how demoralising it was, right? Because they knew that any slip-ups to Man City would probably cost them the title. And being at the Emirates that day and hearing that silence when the whistle blew was, that was quite harrowing if you're from an Arsenal perspective. I think, Arteta, I don't know if you watch the Amazon documentaries, but he uses these weird type of motivational tools, and I'm sure he's probably put it on the screen at that game again to try and get revenge or billet, something like that. So I think for Emery and Villa, they need to be obviously nice and loud, which I'm sure they'll be. But I think if they can start well in that game, then those type of memories and those scars could be reopened.
They're a phenomenal outfit, Arsenal. The fact that we beat them twice last season tells you everything about how good Villa were at times last season, but they are a phenomenal outfit. I watched their game on Saturday against Wolves, and it was quite an efficient kind of BAU win for Arsenal. That's kind of what they do at home. Now they don't really ever look like conceding at the Emirates, but is there a way Villa can get at them at home?
I think there's a few times in that Emirates game, and obviously what John McGinn, his goal in the first game was Villa were really good at bringing teams onto them and generating these type of counter-attacks transitions. And Villa did that a few times at the Emirates. I remember Morgan Rogers being fantastic in driving with the ball. What Villa needs to do is they're going to need to control the ball, be nice and brave at the back, and then therefore go and attack the back two or back three, because obviously Arsenal have got a great setup, great defensive shape, great centre backs, but I think they can be done down the sides. I'm not sure if Calafiori will start left back, but left back is a potential weakness if he doesn't start. So I think Villa need to obviously be very good on the counter attack. But what they did really well in both of those games last year is they just held in, didn't they? They dug in and stayed there. I think second half at Villa Park, sometimes they're getting battered and bruised, but they just managed to withstand the storm, and they're really quite defensively secure. And obviously, they had some really good individual performances, didn't they, in Diego Carlos and Ezri Konsa last year, if memory serves me correctly. So they probably need those guys to stand up as well again.
Yeah, and what's great about Villa now, and what we saw in the first game, is just those options off the bench that can impact a football match. I don't really ever feel like Villa have had that in my life. That the pure quality on the bench on Saturday to bring on, and the fact that three of them combined to get the winner. I'm expecting Jacob Ramsey to get himself into the 11 soon, but I don't think he'll play tomorrow. Having a player like that to bring on, and we haven't seen much of him and Rodgers at the same time. I really think there could be something there with those two, and then Maatsen, although Luka Dean's done excellent to stay in the team for another summer. Credit to him. Greg and I spoke about his resilience on Monday. But what Villa have got now is bona fide options on the bench that can change games. Yeah,
and also they're youthful, aren't they? I think there's 7 players aged 23 or under ended the game against West Ham. These are guys that are young, are hungry, and are direct and want to make an impact. On the bench. When you see the likes of Maatsen, Duran, Ramsey, Philogene come on, these are all guys very confident on the ball, great drive. They like to drive with the ball. They like to be direct, and they will make impact in games. So I wasn't surprised that Villa's strength off the bench the other day. But I think what's great as well is these players are really versatile. Maatsen can play a number of positions. Jacob Ramsey can play, centre midfield, on the left, on the right. Jane and Philogene as well. So these are guys that can play in different positions depending on the type of game it is.
Yeah, just quickly before we go, we haven't really spoken about Onana. I love that midfield partnership. Like last week, Onana and Tielemans. Tielemans is one of my favourite players. I loved him before he came to Villa, and just watching him at Villa, he's a type of football that I just really enjoy watching, that type of footballer. But what did you make of Onana's debut?
Yeah, I wrote about him on Wednesday. I absolutely loved him. I think I was a bit worried in pre-season because I thought he might be too tall to play in holding midfield for Villa, because these type of tall guys, they're not always the most press resistant because they're so tall. The ball's quite far away from them. Paul Pogba used to take too many touches, get used to getting nicked off him when he used to play the deep areas. But what I liked about Onana is that he kept it really simple sometimes. 1-2 touch, but he's got this real great responsibility where he's courageous on the ball. He takes the ball in the half time when he can. He doesn't mind receiving under pressure. He's really good in the air, winning first, second balls. And he's a leader. But I really do think that there's a lot more to come from him in the attacking sense. Emery wanted Douglas Luiz to be an all-round midfielder, to score, to defend, and I think Onana can do that. So I liked what I saw of him as a defensive midfielder, and he has to do that next to Tielemans. But I think with the Kamara, he could do even more going forward. And Yuri Tielemans is just fantastic threading those balls through. So I would ideally like to see a Tielemans number 10, and then Kamara and Onana in that midfield, and that would be such a secure, well-balanced midfield.
And who's your pick a key man for each team tomorrow?
Oh, thing is though, I really don't know with Arsenal, because I don't see where they are in terms of their form and fitness. I think obviously Havertz is that type of player who's I'm not sure about him. I think he adds a bit of a one-pace nature to Arsenal, but he obviously ended the season really well towards the end of last year, didn't he? And for me, Morgan Rogers in the Villa team, I talked about transitions and Villa being really good and exploiting that. And Rogers' ball carrying is, it's one of the best I've seen for a while. So if Villa do have that space to drive in midfield, he will be so integral.
Yeah, Morgan Rogers is going to have played for England by the end of the season. Is my prediction. I think he'll be perfectly suited for England under Carsley. Carsley will know him as well, obviously, because he will have managed him. So yeah, I think Rodgers, he's so good. What a signing he's turned out to be. And he'd probably be the key man that I'd pick out for tomorrow as well. I'm really keen to see what he can do in that number 10 position. I think that will really suit him. If we do a score prediction, I don't really like doing that. I'm not really. It's too early in the season to be making match-based predictions, in my opinion.
You can go first, Dan, if you want.
No, maybe I'm going with that. We shouldn't do it. I think you can only make yourself look silly at this stage of the season. There's not enough to go off. Is there to make a prediction?
No, like you say, and with Arsenal Villa as well, the players are coming back from the Euros. You don't know really how sharp they're, what type of form they're in. So yeah, that's pretty sensible.
Yeah, let's not do it. That's fine. Anything coming up that we should know about, Jacob, or anything you want to point listeners towards that you've done in the last week or so?
Yeah,
I haven't read today's piece yet. Yeah, I should tell you.
That's okay. That's all right. Yeah, I did a piece on Onana on Wednesday, and today I did a piece on Mark Bosnich, who kindly sat down with me for 90 minutes, and we went through Emilio Martinez's saves, his character. He knows him a little bit, and it was one of the most fascinating interviews I've done. I think Bosnich is a character, love him or hate him. I just wanted to get one of Villa's greatest goalkeepers to analyse Villa's greatest goalkeeper, and it was really good, and the reaction's been really good to it so far. So that's out, and yeah, I'm sure there'll be some big news next week as well.
Nice guy, Bozzy. I've spoke to him a few times, interviewed him as well. He's a really nice guy. He was one of my heroes as a kid. The Bozzy top was the one that everyone wanted. The old Asics. I've got a couple of them. Absolutely sensational show. But Bozzy he would always be in my best 11 of Villa players that I've seen. He'd always be the goalkeeper, but I won't put anyone into the team until they leave. I think the day Emi Martinez leaves, I think he probably has to go in. So on the bench, Bozzy, I don't think you watch him, but yeah, disappointed.
You know what? He was really analytical. Like some of the things he explained about, we would watch videos together of Martinez's saves, and some of the things he was saying, like his technique and what he's thinking at that point, I never have considered, or I never even knew. He's really good analytical brain. But I asked him at the end, what does Martinez need to do to be better than you? And he says, I'm still better. But if Emi wins a trophy with Villa, then I'll put my hands up and say he's better. So in his mind, he's still the better at the moment.
He's got that. To be fair to him, he's got the two medals at Villa. Not many people since I've been born have got any medals. There's only like 25 players since I've been born that have got medals, and a lot of them played. Actually, it would be less because a lot of them played in 94 and 96. Probably I'd be interested to do the maths around that actually. Since I've been born, how many Villa players have got winners' medals? It won't be a lot. It'll probably be under 16, 17. I would say that's scary. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do the maths.
Does Championship playoff count or not?
Oh no, I'm not having that. I don't count that. I didn't celebrate that like it. I was pleased to be promoted, but I didn't celebrate it like it was a trophy.
Really?
That was just a relief to get out of the league. Yeah. No, that's not a joke. It's not an honour that. You're obviously delighted to go up, and it's a big party at Wembley, and I enjoyed myself. But I don't count that. You can't count that. Might as well count like the Peace Cup in 2009 or whenever it was we played in. I read Martin O'Neill's book on holiday. Actually, there were some interesting Villa anecdotes in that book. So yeah, but yeah, good to go and read Jacob's piece with Mark Bosnich. Bozzy's always good value, and like I say, he's a thoroughly nice bloke as well. Right then, Greg and myself, I think we'll be back at some point after the Arsenal game. My schedule is absolutely unreal next week, even worse than this week where it's been quite bad. So I'll sort something out. Anyway, it might be that the old lappy top and microphone has to come to London with me and do some hotel shows. That may have to happen next week. Obviously going to be a busy week as well with it being the last week of the transfer window. So if anything happens, I will do my best to jump on. So even if I jump on social media, I'll jump on somewhere and talk about things. Thanks to Jacob for joining me. Always a pleasure to talk to you, especially for the first time this season. Thank you to Lee for producing. Wherever you're taking in the podcast, whether it be via audio or video, do all the things that I go on about every single week. The big one, as always, Apple Podcasts. Let's get some traction here. Let's get some 5-star reviews. And if you're enjoying the show, if you're not enjoying the show and you're going to give it less than 5, then no, don't need a review. I don't need that in my life. But if you are enjoying it and you want to give a 5-star review and some nice comments, that would be greatly appreciated. Let's try and get to 500 likes on this video. Let's start setting some like targets. Again, we get to 500. Villa will win tomorrow. Short shelf life on this video, so you're going to have to be quick with your likes, but it will get at least 500 people watching it. I'll be confident to say. So if you are watching it on YouTube, make sure you press the like button and make sure you subscribe with your post notifications on as well. Keep your eye on our socials and we'll let you know when we're back next week. Enjoy the game tomorrow. I'll see many of you there, I'm sure. Up the Villa.